Oh yeah.
No. Okay, so we have started this very important section, which is how to properly rely on the guru. And we have explained that this is it's a very important subject. It comes with a number of outlines. And the way that it is usually mentioned, I'm sorry, it's an aeroplane. The way that it is usually mentioned in the text is the way to properly rely on the guru, the root of the path. So we have explained that this word root there indicates something which is very important and also very precious. Very important and very precious because if you properly rely upon the guru, you will develop all the realizations. If you do not properly rely on the guru, there will be no generation of any realization. So there was also this mention that by relying on the guru, the path becomes very quick, like you quickly complete the path. In particular, we know that this is a feature of Tantra, of highest yoga Tantra, but again, that relies upon properly cultivating a relationship with the guru. If that relationship is in place, then the tantric path can be very fast. So the last sentence that we read last week was the one that says in page 219, the first paragraph under the main outline. The highest tantras too achieve this extremely quickly, and Guru Yoga is the very lifeblood of this tantric path. This can be seen, for example, in Je Milarepa's life story. So it says here that highest tantras can complete the path very quickly. And then it qualifies this and it says, but in the practice of Tantra, Guru Yoga is the lifeblood of the path. So lifeblood there indicates something which is absolutely essential, something which is very, very important in the practice. Indeed, if you know how to properly rely on the teacher in terms of your attitude and in terms of your actions, then you can very quickly complete the path. Now, in the Gelug tradition, we have different rituals for Guru Yoga, and these are, for example, Lama Chöpa or the 100 deities of Tushita, and there are other texts as well. But the most important thing, to understand is that these are rituals. They are words, poems, if you want, elaborate poems that we recite. But in reality, the most important thing is that relationship between the teacher and the disciple. If that relationship is correct, then things happen very quickly. And then it says, this can be seen, for example, in Je Milarepa's life story. So we all know the life story of Milarepa, but the important thing, of course, there are many things in that life story. The key element was that he knew exactly the correct way to rely upon his teacher. And this is why he achieved everything that he achieved. And then it says, I could quote you such verses as, through his kindness, the state of great bliss, and so forth. So this is a verse that we recite where it says, actually I think it's better to say through your kindness, because it's referring to the Guru, right? You're addressing the Guru. And says, through your kindness, the state of great bliss is achieved within a few moments. I bow at your lotus feet, my precious like Guru. So it is through your kindness that I will obtain this state of great bliss. The state of great bliss refers to Buddhahood. So it says, I bow to your lotus feet, you who are like jewel-like. So we have here the analogy of the jewel. Why? Because in this world, in terms of mundane experience that we have, if you have a jewel, that jewel, number one, is very beautiful, is very precious, but more importantly, it can provide for everything that you need. So if you want to buy clothes, if you want to have food, if you want whatever you want to have, If you have jewelry, you can sell the jewels, you can exchange it for all those goods. So in that sense, the jewel can provide, precious stones can provide for you. So because we don't have example that is better than that in our mundane, ordinary experience, we use this analogy and we refer to the guru as the jewel-like guru, you who are the jewel-like guru. So we say basically the idea is that you can provide for everything. If I know the proper way of relying upon you, then within a very short time, which is, as it says, in an instant there indicates the duration of this lifetime during the degenerative era, or even more specifically, within 3 years and 3 months if you do that intensive practice. So within such a very short time, you bestow on me the state of great bliss through your kindness. Then we have the second verse, where it says, through his compassion, the sphere of great bliss, and so forth. So again, it's almost an identical verse that we find in Lama Chöpa. Both of those two verses have the same meaning. They're almost identical. Anyway, the important thing to understand here is that the guru, from his side, he has the power to lead us very quickly to complete Buddhahood. But the question is whether or not we know how to properly rely upon him. If we know how to properly rely, then it will be very quickly. If we don't know, it's not that the guru is missing the power, it's just that we don't know how to properly relate to him, and this is why we're missing out. So we have the second verse here that comes from Lama Chöpa and refers to the sphere of great bliss. So that sphere of great bliss refers to the state of the dharmakaya, the Dhamma body of the Buddha. So it continues by saying, that is, if you devote yourself to the Guru properly, through his kindness and compassion, he will give you the state of dharmakaya, the sphere of great bliss, in one short lifetime only, which is but an instant in these degenerate times. So both verses use this expression, in an instant you bestow on me the state of great bliss, and so forth. So instant here refers to this short, to the duration of an average lifetime, an ordinary lifetime in this degenerative era. So it says here, the human life is only an instant when compared with the lifespans of beings in the hells below and the gods above. So we have great, for on every realm and every state, every type of reincarnation, the duration of a day is actually different. So 50 years of our time actually equates to 1 day of the gods of the desire realm on the first level. Now, above this first level, we have the gods of 33, then we have the gods who abide without conflict, and then above that, we have the gods who inhabit Gaden. So for each one of those, the time is multiplied. Okay, so for the first level of gods, 50 of our years is 1 day for them. But when we come to the last level, the level of Gaden, because we have multiplied already 3 times, then one section of their morning, so a few hours from their morning, equals 50 years of our time. And then above the gods of the desire realm, we have gods of the form realm and the formless realm, and the lifespan increases more and more. It's not just in comparison to the gods above, but also to the hells below. So we have different levels of hells, and the deeper you get, the longer the duration it gets. So when we compare our lifespan with the lifespan of those beings in the hell without respite, Avicii hell, which is the deepest hell, the difference is enormous. So our life is almost like an instant. And to illustrate this, Kyabje Pabongka Rinpoche told the story of a Sangha's journey to Tushita. So Tushita is Gaden. So we mentioned that the gods, the deities who live at Gaden, at Tushita, they have a very long lifespan. So the story of a Sangha was that when he had a direct vision of Protector Maitreya flew up to Gaden, to Tushita, and Asanga was holding from Maitreya's robes. So he flew with him up at Tushita, and there he spent just a morning. And during that time, he received what was later composed, what was written down as the 5 texts of Protector Maitreya. So, although Master Asanga spent only one morning up at Tushita, when he returned down here to earth, 50 years had gone by. And this story is given here to illustrate that the human life is but an instant compared to the life of the gods or the life of the hell beings and so forth. It continues by saying, moreover, the human lifespan is but an instant compared with the length of time we spent in samsara. So, of course, there is a particular way in which we link to those appropriated and contaminated aggregates, and we take them again and again, and taking again and again those contaminated aggregates is what we understand as samsara. So if we consider all the past lives that we had so far, they are countless. And if we consider all the future lifetimes that we will have to spend in samsara if we're not careful and if we don't practice properly, then, obviously the duration of one lifetime within the span of entire samsara is something which is like an instant, just a moment, is very short. If you are not properly devoted to the Guru, you will not develop even the slightest realization into the stages and paths, no matter what practice you cultivate, be it even the highest tantras. So again, this point of how important it is to properly rely, to know how to properly rely. If you do not know how to rely on the teacher, then there will be no realizations in terms of the grounds and the paths. So that is a fact. That is something which is very clear. You should have no doubt about it. That is decided. There will be no realizations. Even if you practice highest yoga tantra, because people think, what could go wrong with tantra? Tantra is guaranteed. But no, if you don't have the proper way to rely on the teacher, there will be no progress. But if you devote yourself properly, so if you know how to properly rely, you will soon obtain the state of unification. The state of unification here refers to Buddhahood. So you will soon obtain the state of Buddhahood, even though this normally requires many eons to achieve. So according to this, the perfection vehicle, it requires 3 countless great eons, which is an extremely long time. Then, as the essence of nectar Lamrim says, the great unification is most difficult to achieve, even after perseverance of 100-fold strong over oceans of countless eons. But they say one can easily achieve it in one short life of this degenerate age by relying on the Guru's power. So it says to reach the grade of union, the great unification, which is the state of Buddhahood, it will take you many eons of very hard work. But if you know how to properly rely on the teacher, then you can achieve that easily, quickly, smoothly in one short life of this degenerate age. So as you can see, the point that is driven again and again is that if you know how to properly rely on the Guru, then Buddhahood is something which is obtainable easily, quickly, smoothly, and fast. So up to here, he has made a lot of references to Tantra, highest yoga Tantra, and so forth. And this is not the case only in Tantra, but also in Sutra. So we continue. Even in the Sutric tradition, one travels the path quickly if one's guru's devotion is exceptional. So not just in Tantra, the path becomes faster, but also in Sutra. Pabongka Rinpoche then told the life story of the bodhisattva Sadaprarudita. So he was a bodhisattva following the Sutric tradition, and his life story indicates how the path becomes faster if you have proper reliance. Okay, so the story of bodhisattva Sadaprarudita, his name translates as the one who was always crying. Okay, so it's a very long story, but Geshe says I will give you the story in brief. So Sadaprarudita, he was really intent on reaching the state of perfect enlightenment. So he wanted to reach the perfection of wisdom. And for that, he wanted to go into isolation, a place far away from the cities and the villages, to cultivate concentration. As he was going along the path, he met an arhat, and the arhat gave him some instructions. So he said, go to the east, proceed to the east, and there you will find what you're looking for. And then he elaborated a little bit by saying, there you will find your teacher. Go there and keep traveling, keep walking towards the east, night and day. Shine or hail, it doesn't matter what the conditions are, you have to keep going towards the east to meet your teacher. So, and then the arhat sort of like disappeared. Okay, so Sadaprarudita started walking towards the east, and he was walking and walking and going, and then after a while he said, well, how far do I have to go? Like, how far is what I'm looking for? How far is my teacher? How long is this trip going to last? Like, are we there yet? And he had that thought, and he became kind of like, by having that thought, he became kind of like depressed, or he lost his determination, and he stopped walking. So he stayed just in that place for 7 days. So he stopped and stayed in a particular place for 7 days. And there a Buddha appeared to him, extremely beautiful and handsome. And he gave him a prophecy, a prediction. And he said, it is extremely good that for the sake of reaching the perfection of wisdom, you are seeking to find a teacher upon which you will rely. All the previous Buddhas of the past, all those who have reached enlightenment, did exactly the same. So it is very good that you're following in their footsteps. So go to the east, continue walking to the east, and you have to travel a further distance of 500 yojanas. So those ancient miles. So in the prediction, the Buddha actually gave him the distance that he had to go. So he started going towards the east to cover that distance, and as he was walking, as he was traveling towards his destination, he actually met thousands of Buddhas, and each one of those Buddhas praised him and told him that what he was doing was exceptional, was very good. So they lifted his spirit and encouraged him, because obviously in the course of the trip, from time to time, he was becoming tired and discouraged. And every time that happened, a Buddha would appear and again, praise him and lift his spirits. Yeah. So he was, having received the prediction, he knew exactly the distance. He was receiving encouragement along the way. So he was quite happy, and he kept progressing. But after a while, he had another thought, and he said, okay, I'm going closer to my destination now, and I will meet my guru, but I have absolutely nothing to offer to him. And he felt really bad about it, and he was saying, you know, what sort of a person I am. I must have very impure karma, because here I am, I'm going to meet my teacher completely empty-handed. I don't have a single thing to offer. So then he said, okay, I still have this body. So he says, the next town, the next village I go, I can offer my body, right? So he thought, either I can offer my body as a servant, you know, to somebody else. Anyway, he was saying, this is just contaminated aggregates. I can offer this, no problem. Or I can cut parts of my flesh and offer it, you know, someone might have use for it. So he says, I will use my body to obtain offerings for my teacher. So that was his plan. So he went into that city and he tried to offer himself and his body and so forth, but no one was interested. So his plan didn't seem to be working, and he was getting quite desperate. At that point, Indra, the god Indra, appeared disguised as a Brahmin to facilitate the situation. And he said, oh yes, I need a body like yours. So you come and work for, you know, you come, I need your body. I need your body. And the bodhisattva was like so delighted, and without any sense of loss, he was ready to give his body. He started cutting pieces of his body to offer his body, because he was thinking, finally I will get something that I can offer to my guru. Now nearby there was a group of 500 ladies. They were playing musical or instruments, and they were dancing and singing. And amongst them, one lady, one girl, had pure karma. So she was able to perceive the intention of the bodhisattva. So she was like, everyone was singing and dancing, all the girls were singing and dancing, and suddenly, you know, she was just like so amazed. And she says, look, there is this bodhisattva, where without any sense of loss, he sincerely is ready to offer his own body in order to have something to offer to his teacher. So she was like so astonished, so amazed for witnessing such a thing, that immediately she requested Indra, and you know, she told all the other girls, like she told everyone about this, and said, look, we have to get everything we have to provide him. So she was from a very good family, so she got, you know, jewelry and pearls and what have you, you know, a lot of wealth, and offer it to him. And of course, then at that point, the other 500 girls, the 499, they were also very impressed, and they followed, and they said, look, if you're going to meet your guru, we're going to come with you. So suddenly he had this, he was surrounded by those 500 ladies ready to offer all the jewelry and possession, and wanted to travel with him. And at this point, Indra dropped his disguise as a Brahmin and said, I don't need your body. I have absolutely no need for your body. It was like a test, and I can see that you have no hesitation. You're so sincere in offering your body in order to have something to offer to your guru. This is exceptional. Your attitude is just amazing. Congratulations, very well done. So he was congratulated by Indra, and he had this entourage of 500 ladies, and he had quite a lot of wealth. So off he went again. Anyway, it's a long story. And along the road, you know, he found horses and elephants and, you know, all the amazing things that he could offer to his teacher. Okay, so the story. Okay, so now he has all the wealth, and he has this big entourage of 500 ladies and elephants and horses and so forth. So they all were riding on the horses and the elephants, proceeding towards the east. And when they got close, finally they reached their destination, a place that was called Bodin, important. That's the place where his teacher was staying. And as he approached there, according to the custom, he came out, he dismounted from the horse and the elephant, and he went on foot to meet his guru. And when he met his guru, he showered him with gold and silver and flowers and make many requests to him. He told him the entire story from the beginning of his trip up until this point, and he said, please, I'm seeking those teachings on the perfection of wisdom. And the teacher was quite pleased, and he gave him a teaching, teaching emptiness. He gave the example of the mirage, the illusion, and so forth. It was a very short teaching on emptiness, and then he said, you know, I'm going to enter retreat now. I'm going back to meditate for another 7 years. But the Bodhisattva was so extremely happy for having received these teachings that he offered everything that he had brought with him. So the 500 girls, the elephants, the horses, all the gold, all the silver, all the jewelry, everything precious that was given to him, he offered it to the Guru. And the Guru accepted it in order to allow the Bodhisattva to accumulate merit. And then straight away he offered it back to him. And then he said, okay, now that we have completed this, I am going into a 7-year retreat. And the Bodhisattva and the other girls decided that, the 500 girls decided they would remain there and serve the Guru during the 7 years of retreat. So they served every need that he had. At the end of the 7 years, the word came out, the Guru sent a word out saying, you know, now I'm finished the retreat and I am ready to give a teaching. I will give you a teaching. And when they heard that, they were just like so extremely happy. So they cleaned the place and they started making preparations for a throne. And the girls took their garments off and they piled up the garments to make a throne. And there was a Bodhisattva and he thought, okay, there's one last thing we have to do. There's quite a lot of dust. So we need to sprinkle water to keep the dust down. And he went out and he was looking for water and he couldn't find water anywhere. So he cut his veins and he started spreading his blood, sprinkling his own blood to keep the dust down. And when the ladies saw him doing that, the ladies also started doing this. So once again, Indra appeared and he transformed this blood into nectar. It was almost like perfume water with sandalwood and nectar. And so the whole place was suddenly, you know, it was like there was no dust left. It was all very clean and so forth. And so that was the preparation for the teachings. And the story has it that the Bodhisattva, when he began all those activities, he began his journey and so forth, he was on the path of accumulation. But at the end of this event, he had already reached the 8th Bodhisattva ground. So usually it takes 3 countless great eons to complete this, even more. But he did it in a very short period of time. So you see, even in Sutra, we have accounts of the path becoming very short if you know the proper way to rely upon your teacher. So if we were to meet a Buddha, say, we would think, I have met a Buddha higher than my Guru. This may be well and good, but Sadapraradita saw countless Buddhas and was not satisfied. So in our case, if we were to meet a Buddha, we would be satisfied straight away. Like, you know, I don't need, you know, he's better than my Guru. I'll make offerings to him. But the Bodhisattva saw many Buddhas, countless Buddhas on his way, but he was not satisfied. Instead, he searched for a Guru. This is a vital point. For no one can benefit us as much as a guru with whom we have had a karmic relationship over all our rebirths. So a guru with whom you have had a karmic relationship that goes back many lifetimes is the person that can benefit you the most. There's no one who can benefit you more than this type of a guru. And Sadaprarudita may have been satisfied at the time of meeting his teacher with offering a wish-granting jewel given he had received from Indra. So remember, he received quite a lot of presents and wealth and so forth, precious things from Indra. But Sadaprarudita, however, cut the flesh from his own body and bled himself in order to honor and revere his guru, Dharmokdatta. This was to give the greatest force to his building up the two types of accumulation. So, all the story we have been saying, this is in brief. This was, so Sadaprarudita had already achieved this single-pointed concentration called continuous Dharma when he had those visions of many Buddhas. He was, in fact, on the great level of the Mahayana path of accumulation. So he was on the path of accumulation when he started. Then he met Dharmokdatta, who taught him Dharma, and Sadaprarudita mastered the 8th bodhisattva level and developed the patience of ungenerated Dharma level. Okay, so he went from the path of accumulation to the 8th ground. He achieved this so rapidly because of his matchless devotion to his spiritual guide. They say that other bodhisattvas have to spend one interminable great eon building up their accumulations, whilst on the first 7 impure levels of the 10 bodhisattva levels. So we have the 10 bodhisattva grounds, and the first 7 of them are called the impure grounds, and then the remaining 3 are the pure grounds. So for the first 7, the impure grounds, according to the perfection vehicle, the sutric tradition, it takes one countless great eon to amass the necessary accumulation. But he went from the path of accumulation to the 7th ground in one lifetime. So he did it very quickly. So that very important point here of how important the guru is. And, imagine that you were in a situation where someone asks you, there is the Buddha right here, and there is your guru to whom you prostrate, or to whom you prostrate first. Okay. So in our case, we would say, oh, there's the Buddha. Let me prostrate to the Buddha first, right? But the correct way is that we must prostrate to the Lama first. And the Buddha, the Hidam, and so forth, they come afterwards. Actually, this is a tradition in Bhutan. If you meet people from Bhutan, you'll see that they reflect this in the way they have this. It's part of their custom in terms of how they prostrate. So when they enter, let's say, in a monastery or in the room where there is a teacher and so forth, obviously you have the altar where you have all the statues of the Buddhas and so forth, and then you have the seat of the guru, of the Lama, right? So first they prostrate to the guru, and then they prostrate to the altar, isn't it? Now, so Geshe was saying, I know that I have seen a lot of Bhutanese people because our place is close to Bhutan, and they come often. But Geshe says, in our tradition, we don't do this. When we enter in the monastery or the Gompa and so forth, first we prostrate to the altar, to the Buddhas and so forth, and then we prostrate to the Lama. So that is a very interesting point. And there was this story also with Guru Rinpoche. So he went to see his guru one day, and his guru manifested a mandala with all the deities. And he says, okay, well then, come on, you have to prostrate. Who do you prostrate to? And Guru Rinpoche chose to prostrate to the Lama first. And his Lama congratulated him and he says, "Oh, you did something correct today. Well done. Yes, you prostrated to the Guru." So, very important thing, indicates the importance of this relationship with the Guru. Okay, so whether or not you have proper Guru devotion determines whether you will reach Buddhahood quickly. So it's a very clear statement here. So we have some dependence, some relationship. So reaching Buddhahood depends on the type of relationship you have with your Guru. So there is that dependency. If you have a good relationship, Buddhahood will definitely be achieved, and it will be achieved easily. If you don't have a relationship, or if you have a bad relationship, then it will not be achieved, or it will take a very long time to accomplish. You will come closer to Buddhahood if you rely on him. That is, if you put into practice whatever instruction he gives you. So you go to the Guru, and the Guru might give you even a very small instruction. Whatever instruction he gives you, immediately you implement that thing. Immediately you put that thing into practice. And if you do like this, if you're willing to do like this, you become that much closer. With every piece of advice that you put into practice, you become that much closer to Buddhahood. So remember that the major outline of this section is that you will come closer to Buddhahood by practicing the instruction that he gives you. And this is what is explained here. And then it says, and you will reach Buddhahood sooner if you rely on someone who can teach the complete path rather than on a person who can only teach the small scope. So if you rely upon a teacher who only knows a portion of the path, so it says here the small scope, then obviously they can only lead you up to that point. And that means you will only reach that point. You will not go any further. So it is much better to rely upon a teacher who is able to teach you the complete path. Complete here means the small scope, the medium scope, and the great scope. So that would be ideal. And then it says, if a disciple who is a suitable vessel, in other words, one who can endure austerities, meets up with a guru capable of teaching the whole path. So we have here the perfect combination of teacher and disciple. So the disciple must be someone who is determined, someone who has endurance, who can endure difficulties, and who is, totally determined to do this. And on the other hand, you have a teacher who has knowledge of the complete path. So when these two meet, right, they say that all difficulties will melt away, as if the Buddhas had arranged this themselves. So suddenly the road is open. All the difficulties melt away and it becomes very easily. Okay, so we'll continue with another quotation from Padampa Sangye, who said, "You will reach any place you desire if the Guru carries you there. So people of Dingri offer him reverence and respect as the journey's prize." So he says, anywhere you want to reach, any attainment you want to have, and in particular here we're talking about reaching the state of Buddhahood, you can reach there if the teacher guides you there. So you need to rely upon the Guru. It says it is certain that the teacher, this type of relationship, this reliance will bring you there. So offer him reverence and respect, and make offerings to the Guru with respect. As for the term people of Dingri, it's not necessarily a location. So Geshe-la was saying, I think that Dingri, like Dingri people, is an expression to refer to those who are like, they do not show respect to the Guru. So he's actually saying, you disrespectful people, offer him reverence and respect as the journey's prize. And then we have a quotation from Master Nagarjuna. So Nagarjuna said, if a person fell from the peak of the mountain, from the peak of the king of mountains, he would still fall, even though he thought, I shall not fall. So you have someone who has actually slipped and has fallen off the top of the mountain. And this person, once they lose the footing and they start falling, there is only one way to go. They will fall, they will hit the ground. There is no other way to go. So even if they're thinking, oh, I'm not going to fall, they don't have the power to stop this fall. Okay, so if you receive beneficial teachings through the Guru's kindness, you will still be liberated, even though you think, I shall not be liberated. Okay, so if you receive the instructions, the cigarette tantra, the transmissions, whatever instruction the teacher gives you, and that instruction is totally beneficial, you put that thing into practice, and then it's inescapable. You will be liberated, even if you're thinking, I will not be liberated, just like the person who is falling and says, oh, I will not fall, I will go against gravity. So here, when you receive those teachings, you will be liberated, even if you don't believe that you will. So that is, if you fell from the top of a high mountain, you could not stop, even if you felt, I can go back. So as you're falling, free fall, you're having this thought that says, no, I'm not falling. I can actually reverse this and go back at the top. Even if you have thoughts like this as you're falling, it doesn't stop you from falling. There is only one way to go, and this is down. You're going down. Similarly, if your guru devotion is sound, it will lead you your liberation from samsara, even though you might feel, I will not be liberated. But you cannot travel even the least of the stages and paths if you do not rely on the guru. So very important thing here, that there is this emphasis on this relationship. So we say our Buddha reaching enlightenment, becoming a Buddha, depends upon proper reliance on the Guru. So we have to rely upon the Guru. And if the Guru is knowledgeable, if it is a correct type of a Guru, they will know how to guide us correctly, and we will reach that result of Buddhahood. If we choose to rely upon a Guru who is ignorant and does not know how to lead us there, obviously we will not reach that destination. So there's the great dependency and great reliance. Remember that the major outline of this section was you will come closer to Buddhahood by practicing the instructions that he taught you. So it's not enough just to befriend a guru. The guru knows the path, but the important thing is that you will not go anywhere, you will not progress unless you practice yourself. You have to practice the instruction. So you rely upon the guru in the sense that he will give you the advice, so you depend upon him to give you the advice, and then it's up to you to put this advice immediately into practice. And it is the combination of these two things that makes you move forward and come closer to Buddhahood. All right, so this we have come to the end, the conclusion of this section, and we run out of time, so we stop here for tonight. Okay, so we gave the story of the Bodhisattva Sadaprarutita, and we say his name actually in Tibetan means always crying. He was always crying. Why did the Bodhisattva always cry? He was crying because he thought he didn't have adequate offerings for his teacher. He was crying because he thought he could not present himself well enough to the teacher and so forth. So compare his reasons for crying to the reasons that we have when we shed tears. Why do we cry? So let you finish that, let you do the comparison. Thank you very much.